Hi everybody, and welcome to CFP Board's Business Update webinar for the month of November. I'm Kevin Keller, CEO of CFP Board, and we appreciate you joining us today. Today you'll hear updates from the CFP Board's Board of Directors' latest meeting with an update on the proposed revisions to CFP Board's Standards of Professional Conduct. We'll have updates on some of the latest initiatives from the Center for Financial Planning, as well as our plans for the 2018 Public Awareness Campaign. And then our favorite part is the Q&A. That's always the lively part of the presentation, and we'll be off at the top of the hour for the conclusion. A few housekeeping items, if we could. If you run into any issues with the audio of this presentation, or if it seems like the slides might be out of sync, then please refresh your webinar console. There is a Q&A function on the screen that you can use to submit questions to us at any time during the program. We'll try to address as many questions as possible during the Q&A section, but if we don't get to you, we will follow up to you with a written response. With me here today are Blaine Aikin, the 2017 Chair of the Board of Directors, and Richard Salmen, the 2017 Chair-elect, who will take over as Chair of the Board next year. So thank you all for joining us. We're originating this webinar from Denver, Colorado, where the Board of Directors just met. And Blaine, why don't you start us off?
I'd be happy to. Well, the Board of Directors met this past few days for our regular November business meeting. And you could say it's a homecoming of sorts since CFP Board was founded in founded in Denver back in 1985. Since the organization moved to Washington, D.C. in 2007, we really have accomplished a great deal. During the past 10 years, CFP Board has increased public awareness of CFP professionals through our public awareness campaign. We've raised the recognition of financial planning as a viable, valuable, and relevant profession. We've established an effective presence in public policy discourse on fiduciary standards. We've expanded educational partnerships to support current and future CFP professionals. And we've strengthened the rigor and integrity of the certification process through a number of ways, including adding a capstone course requirement for initial certification that requires candidates to prepare a financial plan before they become certified. We're also migrating the comprehensive CFP exam to a computer-based format while retaining the exam's validity, reliability, and legal defensibility. And finally, implementing a CE quality improvement initiative. So with that, why don't we take a look at a short video of some of the highlights from the last 10 years. 10 years ago, the goals of the CFP Board were to establish a level of stability and put together a foundation from which the mission and vision of the organization could be achieved. And I think largely that's happened over the last 10 years. The organization moved from Denver to where the hub of activity for this type of organization would be. That's Washington, D.C.
Since that time, we've added value to CFP certification in a number of ways. Our voice in Washington has been amplified by our work with the Financial Planning Coalition. We've strengthened and expanded our relationships with our educational providers. We've launched a public awareness campaign that's more than doubled the unaided awareness of CFP certification.
The DJ ad had the net effect of elevating the marks, elevating the reputation of CFP Board, and I think elevating the entire profession.
Two major things stand out for me when it comes to the CFP Board over the last decade. The first is that they have steadily increased the number of certified financial planners, all while raising our standards. The second major thing is the creation of the Center for Financial Planning.
The Center for Financial Planning has just been an incredible game changer. How we're going to get more people of color, more young people, an academic home, more PhDs who can teach all of these young people who are coming into our profession.
As financial planners, we all commit ourselves to the standards that we've set as a profession.
Adding that requirement that when providing financial planning, the consumer knows that this person is putting my interest ahead of the firm's, ahead of his or her own, is a very important factor and a distinguishing factor.
CFP professionals love what they do. We have very high satisfaction rates, and they credit CFP certification with the success they've had. The future for CFP certification is bright indeed.
If you thought the last 10 years were amazing, hold on, we got another 10 to come that are going to be more exciting than ever.
That's great. I enjoy that video a great deal, and I hope you all did too. Well, during our board meeting this week, we met with the leadership and board of the Financial Planning Association. FPA has strong programming that supports the work of CFP professionals, and their annual conference, which was held this last month in Nashville, is the largest gathering of CFP professionals. We were very happy to be part of the announcement that was made at the Nashville conference about our partnership with FPA to support the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning. Our joint plans to work together to leverage the strengths of FPA and the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning will certainly benefit the profession and the public. It is essential to the profession's vitality that its key organizations work together, and all of us at CFP Board value our relationship with FPA and encourage CFP professionals, all CFP professionals, to consider joining FPA and getting involved with your local FPA chapters. So our meeting this week was an important opportunity for the board to get the chance to engage with FPA's leadership face to face. We work closely with FPA on a number of issues, including through our work through the Financial Planning Coalition. And together with NAPFA, the Financial Planning Coalition is working toward our shared long-term goal for full recognition of financial planning as a distinct and valuable profession. The coalition has invested substantial time and energy in recent years on our continuing advocacy in support of the delivery of financial advice under a fiduciary standard. CFP Board and the Financial Planning Coalition continue to express support for the DOL's fiduciary rule, given the many ways that it will benefit and protect Americans saving for retirement. Our support for the fiduciary standard for financial planners was also reflected in another of the important topics we covered during this week's meeting, and that being the proposed revisions to the standards of professional conduct. The latest review of the standards is part of our work to ensure that the standards maintain the value, the integrity, and the relevance of the CFP certification. So this June, the board approved a draft of proposed revisions to the standards, and we then released proposed revisions, those particular revisions, for a 60-day comment period that ended on August 21st. The revisions are a thorough rewrite of the current standards, consolidating some of the elements and expanding on others. The revisions included major updates to the practice standards and the application of the fiduciary duty to all financial advice. We certainly appreciate everybody who took the time to review the proposed standards and submit comments. In total, we received more than 1,300 comments from CFP professionals, membership organizations, and industry associations, as well as members of the public and consumer advocacy organizations. After the conclusion of the public comment period, the Commission on Standards reviewed the feedback that was received during the comment period, and the Commission then submitted recommendations that we as the board considered this week. After reviewing the thoughtful feedback that we received during the comment period, the Commission identified a number of areas in the proposed draft standards that might be addressed more effectively. And then we also had a task force of the board to meet in advance of our meeting here in order to refine the Commission's recommendations. And then this week, the board reviewed the recommendations of the Commission as refined by the task force. Next week, we expect to issue an announcement about the board's decisions. So we look forward to sharing this with you, this information about the next steps in this important process overall. I mentioned that our standards are related to CFP Board's strategic priority of authority. So let me turn things over to you, Richard, so you can share some more about CFP Board's strategic priorities and some of the other important initiatives we have underway.
Thank you, Blaine. As you mentioned, CFP Board's work to uphold strong ethical standards and all of the work we do is directly tied to our mission and our strategic priorities. Last November, a year ago, the Board of Directors adopted the 4 A's strategic priorities, which form a strategic plan to take us through the year 2021. The 4 strategic priorities are awareness, access, accountability, and authority, and all of the new strategic priorities are tied to CFP Board's mission to benefit the public. The authority priority is to serve as the respected authority for the profession by setting standards, certifying financial planners, and by advancing the Center for Financial Planning. It encompasses all of CFP Board's work to set standards and certify financial planners, and as you mentioned, Blaine, it also includes our work in reviewing and updating the standards of professional conduct. The CFP Board Center for Financial Planning is another essential part of the authority priority. The Center is seeking to create a more diverse and sustainable financial planning profession so that every American has access to competent and ethical financial planning advice. The CFP Board cannot do that alone, but our unique position in the industry puts us at the crossroads of the people and organizations that can help achieve that ambitious goal. We are generating collective input and resources to support initiatives focused on 3 priority issues: diversity, workforce development, and building an academic home for the profession. We have some great initiatives already underway for each of the Center's priorities. For example, to advance the Center's diversity priority, our I Am a CFP Pro awareness campaign encourages more young people, particularly women and people of color, to consider a career as a CFP professional.
And you know, Richard, before we roll this video, which I think is great, we had a couple comments the last time that the video was choppy. We apologize for that. We've got a high-speed connection here. We recognize that it may not be the same. So it's just a 2-minute. If it's choppy, come back and join us. So why don't we go ahead and roll the video now?
Sounds good.
I love to help my clients achieve their goals.
We're pinky promising that we're gonna get it. You got it? All right.
You know, it's funny, I never thought I was going to be a financial planner. Like, I really didn't even know that was a career. I'm not up at 6 a.m. watching the stock market.
I truly believe that the clients I work with have selected me not so much because of my ideas and the solutions that I placed in front of them, but it's because they trust me and they like me and they like to work with me.
It's more than just about numbers. Actually, it's about building relationships.
It's that ability to trust somebody to help you navigate your finances in a way that you can use your money to serve you and the goals you have.
The more I converse with individuals, it's not common knowledge that there's kind of the good debt and the bad debt. The credit card is the biggest one.
This never works. Have you ever tried this? There's never money left over, right? We always have money to spend.
The work that I do and the way that it benefits communities is multifaceted. I think we take for granted what people know, especially when you talk about groups that have historically not been exposed to wealth.
And especially with my Nana, she didn't have the financial knowledge. And so when it came time to spend the last golden years of her life, so to say, just relaxing, she was worried about finances. I've dedicated my career to her so that another family do not have to witness that when it comes to finances.
So my professional life and my personal life overlap, and I have a really happy life.
I am making a tangible impact in individuals and families every single day.
If you have that feeling in you, like, yeah, I could be a financial planner, do it, because we need more financial planners. You're helping people with their money, you can make good money, and you have ultimate freedom over your time, so that's win-win-win. I'm Brittany Castro.
Justin Sullivan.
Trianca Dorsonville.
And I'm a CFP professional.
This video and all of the I Am a CFP Pro campaign materials were designed to be engaging to younger generations, and we ask you to find opportunities to share them with young people you know who may be interested in financial planning careers. The campaign's website, cfppro.org, is full of content designed for young adults with videos, Instagram feeds, and easy-to-share content. There are a number of ways that you can get involved with this important campaign. You can visit the website, tell your story through social media using hashtag CFP Pro, and dispel a myth or two about financial planning as you do so. Share the campaign videos with your social media networks, and get in touch with the career services people at your firm or alma mater and encourage them to visit the cfppro.org site and educate their employees, students, and alumni about careers in financial planning. And if you'd like our center staff to reach out to your contacts, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We also have some great initiatives in support of the Center's academic home priority, which is focused on opportunities for showcasing and publishing new research, adding to the financial planning body of knowledge, and supporting tenure and promotion of financial planning faculty. The goal of these activities is to create more financial planning programs at colleges and universities, resulting in more students and ultimately more qualified professionals entering the workforce. This year, we reached 2 milestones for the Academic Home Initiative. First, in February, was the inaugural Academic Research Colloquium for Financial Planning and Related Disciplines, which brought together about 200 academics and researchers. The paper acceptance rate was only 30%, making it a very competitive venue for the presentation of research. We've had exceptionally positive feedback from Colloquium participants and are looking forward to hosting the 2018 Colloquium next February, immediately before our annual CFP Board Registered Programs Conference. The second milestone was the groundbreaking teaching program we hosted in May with Columbia University. It was designed for faculty who teach in CFP Board registered programs, as well as CFP professionals looking to become adjunct or full-time instructors. Registration is now open for the 2018 Colloquium, the 2018 Registered Program Conference, and the 2018 Financial Planning Teaching Seminar, and you can find more information at the websites listed here. The impetus for the center was really to make the most of CFP Board's unique position in the industry, which puts us at the crossroads of the people and organizations that can work together to achieve great things for the profession. The center is taking advantage of opportunities to serve as convener to explore important issues and develop actionable solutions. The Digital Advice Working Group, for example, was first launched in August of 2016 to help CFP Board understand the changing environment of how robo-advisors are transforming the delivery of financial advice. As a result of that initial meeting, the group, facilitated by a scenario planning consulting firm, produced a white paper on the future of financial advice, which is available to download from CFP Board's websites. The white paper identified 9 uncertainties, including regulatory changes, the level of consumer demand for digital advice, and the overall evolution of business models in financial services. This year, the working group reconvened in September to revisit the scenarios and engage the group in discussions to better understand the current state of digital advice and to envision the landscape in 2021. The discussion focused around the 9 uncertainties identified in last year's paper. This update reviews the background and key findings from this year's meeting and ends with some thoughts and ideas on how the meeting will change in 2018. For the 2018 meeting, we anticipate the group's discussion will move from envisioning possible scenarios for the future of digital advice to addressing some of the key issues that firms are facing in this arena. There are a number of important areas where digital advice is creating change, from the business models we utilize to the demands and expectations of our current and future clients. With the pace of change we're seeing with digital advice platforms and the varied ways the worlds of humans and automated financial advice are impacting each other, we look forward to more productive discussions from the Digital Advice Working Group. We've only had the time to cover a few of the Center's initiatives here, but I encourage you all to visit the Center's website to learn more about the work underway and to find opportunities to support that work.
Thank you very much, Richard. Before we go to the Q&A section, I just wanted to share a little bit about CFP Board's work to increase the value of the certification brand. The visionaries who came up with the idea of financial planning as a distinct profession were the same who recognized the need for a professional certification and an organization with the important roles of setting and enforcing standards for that certification. CFP Board has worked hard over the years to realize that vision by establishing CFP certification as the standard of the professionalism for financial planning, and that vision still inspires us today. I'm proud of what CFP Board has accomplished toward its important mission to benefit the public by granting the certification and upholding it as the recognized standard of excellence. The CFP certification process is recognized as a valid and rigorous path to achieving professionalism as a personal financial planner. And the CFP certification brand is strong, providing value to those who hold it, and it is recognizable and meaningful within the profession, and I think most importantly, among the public. In August, we released results from our semi-annual survey of CFP professionals. We are very pleased with the results, and they mirror what we've experienced over the years. Satisfaction with financial planning as a career remains high, and if you think about it, 91% of those of you who we certified say they are satisfied or very satisfied with the career choice. Think about your clients. How many of them 91%, how many of your clients would be that satisfied with the career choice? CFP professionals value the certification. 91% of you strongly tell us that you're strongly satisfied with the decision to pursue CFP certification. 83% of you agree with the statement that CFP professionals have a competitive edge. 77% agree that CFP certification has directly contributed to your professional success, and our CFP professionals are our biggest brand ambassadors. 91% of you would recommend CFP certification for other financial professionals. Those of us on the staff at CFP Board feel honored to work for you and work toward increasing the brand awareness and hopefully the satisfaction that CFP professionals feel. We continue to see that CFP professionals have two clear priorities for CFP Board. You tell us this loud and clear. It's not just in this most recent survey, but again is consistent year over year. And those priorities are building and promoting the CFP certification brand. And the second one is enforcing the standards for use of CFP certification. Blaine shared updates on the important work we're doing to strengthen the relevance of our standards of professional conduct, and we have a number of activities underway to strengthen the CFP certification brand and increase awareness of CFP professionals. This feedback we received from CFP professionals through this semi-annual survey is actually one of the factors that led us to develop the public awareness campaign, which goes clear back to 2011. In fact, David Furman asks online, he asks, do the additional amounts that we added to the fees several years ago go toward funding the brand awareness campaign? The answer to that question, David, is absolutely yes. It's $145 per CFP professional per year. It works out to be about $11,000 or $11 million, not 11,000, $11 million per year. That's directly proportional to the number of CFPs. I will tell you that's less than 0.5%, though, of all of the money spent by banks, brokerages, and insurance companies on the retail marketplace. We have a number of activities in place. Why don't we take a look at the next slide. Here you see that since the launch of the public awareness campaign, we've made great progress on the priority of increasing awareness. Our latest brand tracking study found that unaided awareness of the certification is at 27%. That level really stands out when you look at it in comparison with awareness levels for other designations used by financial planners. When we began exploring the idea of the public awareness campaign And even shortly after I began my work with CFP Board, I would hear CFP professionals say that they wanted to see CFP certification as well recognized as the CPA. It's kind of a goal that's always laid out there. When we look at the awareness of designations for financial planning professionals among our target market, we see that we're very close to doing that, and we are well ahead of other designations. So that speaks to the success of the public awareness campaign and the strength of the CFP certification brand. Yet, in a competitive financial planning environment with over 170 financial services-related designations, CFP Board must continue to actively work to ensure that the CFP marks remain top of mind when the public thinks about financial planning. Our public awareness campaign incorporates a mix of what we call earned media, and that's kind of an inside baseball term, but earned media is the public awareness work that we do. It's our public relations work. It's the news releases, it's the CFP Board ambassadors, it's our consumer advocate that's out there. So it's a mix of earned media, and then the paid advertising, that's the $11 million a year that we're spending on the public awareness campaign for raising awareness. Now, we've used several different creative concepts over the last several years. The DJ television ad was a breakthrough ad when we introduced it back in 2013. And it acted as the cornerstone of an integrated campaign that has generated strong increases in awareness. Over the last 2 years, as this campaign has evolved, we've seen awareness start to level off. So we'll be undertaking market research this fall to inform the strategic and creative direction of a new campaign. The goal is to deliver creative direction and an integrated campaign that enhances the value of CFP certification and reinforces the image as the symbol of financial planning excellence and our fiduciary standard. You see here that the current broad timeline we're working with will have new creative in the works in 2018. It'll mean that the actual new television advertising will be out in the fall with a flight in fall of 2018. Production of the new creative will be underway through the middle part of 2018. That doesn't mean that the campaign is going quiet. In addition to the advertising, we continue to communicate the value of CFP certification very actively in social media, through the press, and across other channels. This year, the current value of our earned media, that's when you take all of the mentions that you see in the consumer finance press, in the trade media, we have a service that aggregates it. If we had to buy that coverage, the current value of that coverage is in excess of $70 million if we were buying that space. CFP Board visibility and stories appear both in the trade media, we all see that, but also in mainstream media like the New York Times and USA Today. We are excited about the prospect for a new campaign in 2018 and look forward to sharing it with you when we have it available. We've covered a lot here in a relatively short period of time. We have about a half hour left for my favorite section, for the Q&A. We had questions that came in ahead of time, and we have a number that have come in already. So again, if you have questions, there's a Q&A tab on your console. You can send those in. If we don't get to them during this part of the webinar, we will answer them by mail to you. The first question to CFP Board, Angela, she writes, what are the reasons for needing to change or update the Code of Ethics and Elements? Can this be done incrementally to minimize the unexpected downsides of the changes? And I'm not sure what downsides she's contemplates, but Blaine, why don't you take that one?
Sure, I'd be happy to, and thank you, Angela, for your question. The profession has changed a lot during the 10 years since the existing standards were implemented, and we want to make sure that the standards always reflect the modern delivery of financial planning. So the Commission on Standards and the Board have approached the revision process as an opportunity to update the standards in a way that will benefit the CFP certification, CFP professionals, and the public. And throughout the process, we've deliberately weighed the pros and cons of making changes, knowing that any changes to the standards will require CFP professionals to educate themselves and take steps to remain in compliance. It really doesn't make sense to implement these types of changes incrementally because this is a big undertaking whenever we do these types of revisions periodically to keep the standards up to date. However, the Board has been clear that when final standards are adopted, they will be announced with a date for implementation that gives CFP professionals adequate time to integrate those changes in their practices. So hopefully, Angela, that addresses your concern.
Thank you, Blaine. Jordan writes, how can registered reps employed at large wirehouses continue to comply and use their CFP marks amidst the new proposed rules? Lots of people are worried, says Jordan. So Blaine, I'll let you kind of lead off and follow up if you would.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. And Jordan, again, appreciate your question here. And we have heard comments like this from some people who are worried about the proposed extension of the fiduciary standard. But I think this is something that you should know that we've considered very, very carefully. And the Board itself is very diverse in the representation in the Board of Directors. So we believe that the proposed revised fiduciary standard is a workable standard for all CFP professionals, and it is also really what the public expects from a professional advisor. A financial planner may comply with the standard by acting in the best interest of the client. And we have CFP professionals working in all types of business models who are adhering to our current fiduciary standard for whenever financial planning services are involved. So in the revision process we've gone through has specifically been designed to ensure that our standards continue to be relevant for all CFP professionals. So for example, when we formed the Commission on Standards, we sought members who operate in a wide variety of business models. And that's so that they would better understand how potential changes would apply in each of those business models. So when you think about it, it's not only the Board that was structured in this way to provide a diversity of thought, it's the Commission, and it's been the process of taking in all kinds of comments through the public process that we've gone through. So I will note that the Board will be developing guidance documents for the revised standards, and we plan to create those with input from CFP professionals across all business models. So we look forward to working with CFP professionals at all types of firms and operating with all of the various different business models that are out there.
You know, Blaine, this issue, we just had a board meeting. We're just finishing it up, this issue about business models. There's still a lot of tension about it. I think that what we're trying to do is be sensitive. There are a variety of different business models. We understand the tension. I hear it on both sides, the fee-only, fee and commission, and the various models. But I have been in the meetings, and these issues are pounded out with the objective of really developing standards that will apply across a broad, different group of practices.
Right, and Kevin, as we've talked about, you and I have talked about, and we've talked about in the board meetings, that the core principles we want to make sure of a profession are adhered to in what we promulgate. But there is a great deal of sensitivity to the practical applications that various firms have to be conscious of. So that's where we have, I think, exhibited a great deal of flexibility in the revised standards. And so I'm eager to get the proposed standards out there, and always we're eager for input.
Great. We have 2 or 3 different questions that focus on the public awareness campaign. And I'll kind of roll those all in together, and maybe Richard direct those to you. Donald writes, how is CFP Board going to do more to publicize the benefits of dealing with a CFP professional? Along those same lines, Nadine asks, is the budget for the advertising campaign increasing or decreasing? And if so, why? And Richard writes, I understand and have supported the advertising initiatives, but I've not received acknowledgement from my clients or prospects on this. So how much longer? So we'll take those, Donald, Nadine, and Richard, and I'll let you kind of address all three of those. If you
all right, Kevin, thank you. Well, I'll kind of take them in order. And so, Donald, the whole purpose of the public awareness campaign is to do exactly what Kevin was talking about earlier, which is to highlight the importance of seeking financial advice only from qualified financial planners who hold the CFP certification. In addition to the campaign advertising, we have dedicated a team of CFP Board ambassadors led by Senior Ambassador Jill Schlesinger, who are actively sharing that message through consumer media across the country. And we classify those ambassadors' media appearance as earned media, which Kevin described to us earlier and talked about the fact that that's worth over $70 million, which I think is a significant number. But as we think about the actual budget for the public awareness campaign, to address the next question, that will be slightly higher for 2018 simply because we're growing. We're adding CFP professionals year over year, and since it's a direct fee that each professional pays, it will incrementally have more money for 2018.
And once again, as I said earlier, it's $145, and it goes per CFP certificate. We're going to cross 80,000 CFP professionals here in the U.S., probably, if not before the end of the year, soon, early in 2018. And so it's 145 times how much ever many CFPs we have, and that's the budget we have for the year.
Well, and just to reemphasize that every dollar of that goes directly to the public awareness campaign.
Right. And that's what I said. So there's not an overhead charge against that. It's the direct cost of the campaign.
All right. And then Richard had asked about the initiatives and not seeing any personal impact. We have seen great gains since the launch of the campaign in 2011, and we look forward to seeing continued gains in the coming years. The primary objective is to increase public awareness of CFP professionals and the brand. But in recent years, we've also heard from individual CFP professionals who've gained clients as a direct result of this. And I can share a personal story. My 15-year-old son, when he and I were sitting there watching the basketball tournament this last spring, the DJ ad came on, and I could see the wheels turning over his head, and he turned and looked at me and he says, Dad, isn't that organization that you're involved with? And I said, we're making progress. So, and in this year's survey of CFP professionals, we saw a 7 percentage point increase in the number of CFP professionals who had clients or prospective clients who mentioned our advertising campaign.
Thank you, Richard. A couple other quick questions I'll just address here that relate to the public awareness campaign. EJ writes in, I don't see how CFP is that low. Everyone I talk to knows what a CPA is. I think he's referring to that slide where we had the awareness of the various designations and certifications. That's the one where we showed CFP certification at 27. EJ, that is in direct response to a question that is, when you think about individuals who provide personal financial planning, what one designation do you think about first, and then what others? So that's that's in relation to providing personal financial planning that CFP Board is catching up with CPA. But even total awareness, when you look at those numbers, we're gaining, at least among our target market. There was another question or another comment here. My friend Neil from Arizona says the additional fee for CFP certification to promote the public awareness campaign is a bargain at thrice the price. So thank you, Neil, for that.
Neil, we'll take up that tripling of the fee next year.
All right. Let's go to a question. I've got one here, one that's been on people's minds. Adam writes, I'm going to direct this to you, Blaine.
Okay.
Adam writes, I've yet to see any explanation for the increase in CFP Board's annual, he says dues. We would say renewal fees, but we get the point. It would be appreciated if this could be addressed and clarified what the additional funds will be used for.
Sure, and I think we can do that certainly. And I would comment at the outset at just how important the fiduciary obligations we have as directors are in the work that we do. And so anytime we're talking about the expenditure of resources, it's something that we take very, very seriously. So the Board of Directors made the decision to increase the annual certification fee by $30 after careful review of the work that is needed to accomplish our mission and our strategic objectives. And as we shared in the announcement, $145, and as Richard talked about a moment ago, $145 of the annual certification fee is dedicated solely to the expenses of our public awareness campaign. But what we're talking about here is the remaining $210, which supports the operations of CFP Board in fulfilling its mission and strategic priorities, which are advancing the relevance of the CFP marks and strengthening the CFP certification standing as the highest standard for competent and ethical personal financial planning. So CFP Board has raised the certification fee only twice over the course of 12 years. During that time, we've greatly expanded our operations, and we are committed to and have demonstrated good stewardship of the funding received from CFP professionals and other stakeholders. So we've really made significant strides in advancing the standing of the CFP certification, and I would point to a number of things, some of which you've heard here today about increasing public awareness of CFP professionals, raising the recognition of financial planning as a viable and valuable and relevant profession, establishing an effective presence in public policy discourse on fiduciary standards, expanding the educational partnerships that we have to support current and future CFP professionals, and strengthening the rigor and integrity of the certification process. Now, one of the other things I would also mention is that we do have a reserve for the CFP Board, and that reserve we do as a matter of diligence, and we look carefully at standards for like-type associations and make sure that we are aligned with benchmarks that represent the best practices that are out there for our type of organization.
And we have about a year's operating in reserves, and that's, I'm a certified association executive, a CAE, and that is a sign of a healthy organization, and one that is, it's an important part of sustainability. When you get down less than 3 months or less, that's a sign of an organization potentially that is under stress. I have a couple questions. Richard, I'm going to 2 questions that relate to women in the field of financial planning. Dean asks, how are you bringing more women into the field? And a related question from Robin, who asks, what is CFP Board doing to attract women to the profession? How can they partner with firms to provide employment? So I'll let you have both of those, Richard.
All right. Well, as some of you may or may not know, CFP Board launched its Women's Initiative, or WIN for short, back in 2013. And not long after that, we released a report of research findings and recommendations for increasing the number of women in the profession. Since then, CFP Board and now our Center for Financial Planning have followed up on these recommendations, from working with CFP professionals who want to serve as WIN advocates, and in getting the word out about the need for more women CFP professionals, to connecting CFP professionals with young women professionals on the path to CFP certification who want a mentor. The percentage of CFP professionals who are women is still just over 23%, where it has been for many years. However, we're starting to see some leading indicators that the percentage will grow in the near future. We've had record numbers of women applying for the CFP exam this year in 2017, and solid numbers of women who are actively pursuing CFP certification. With regard to the question of how we can partner with firms to provide employment, that's a great idea, and as a matter of fact, this year the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning has been working with firms on a pilot program called the Financial Planning Reentry Initiative, or FPRI. Financial planning can be a great career for women who may have taken some time away from their careers and are looking to return to work. The FPRI program is working to connect these women with financial planning firms that offer paid internships and support in pursuing the CFP certification. I believe we have 5 firms, Kevin, at this point that are the initial pilot firms within this program, and there are actually open internship positions available now, which you can find through the CFP Board Career Center website, and we plan to expand that beyond those initial 5 in the future.
Yeah, we do indeed. Marilyn Moorman Gillis, who's the the executive director of the center, Marilyn and I have been talking about how are we going to scale this. We're having some early success, some early indications that the program's going to be successful, and so we're looking to scale that. A couple questions that have come in just very recently. We mentioned the Columbia University program. It's a week-long program. Damon asks, is this training program intended to train certified professionals to teach other aspiring professionals in CFP Board accredited programs? And the answer to that is yes. If you're a CFP professional and you think you might like to teach in one of our CFP Board registered programs, then this is a great program. It's a week-long program. It's at Columbia University. We have another session of it coming up in January because everybody wants to go to New York City in January. It's a great place to be. But we have another one of those sessions coming up. We're looking at a West Coast location, again, still in collaboration with Columbia University on the West Coast, but it is indeed to prepare. It's to teach you how to teach financial planning. The next question comes in from Mark, and Mark has a question around public awareness. He said, when you do the awareness surveys, what, if any, demographic do you use to determine to whom the survey is given? And I think that's a great question. I think that is a great question, Mark, because it gives us a chance to talk about the target market for the public awareness campaign. So when we talk about awareness of the certification, we're not talking among all 340 million Americans, but we're looking specifically at the target market, and that is a subset of what's commonly known as the mass affluent. But it's more than just the demographics of the mass affluent. We take the mass affluent, which is generally $100,000 to $1 million of investable assets, and we layer on that age, 35 to 64, and household income over $125,000. But beyond that, there are psychographics or mindset components, if you will, and those kinds of mindsets are people who are inclined to feel a sense of obligation for taking responsibility for their future, who like to work in teams, who trust experts, and all of these demographics and psychographics come to generate what we call the mass affluent initiator. That's our proprietary target market. It's about 9 million U.S. citizens in the United States. So I'm taking a look here. Next question coming in. Jacob asks, why is the CFP... I love this question, Jacob. Jacob asks, why is CFP Board making it easier for people to become professionals, CFP professionals? It seems like having a higher standard for certification increases the profession's reputation more than watering it down and getting more revenue. What does the board think about that? I'm going to turn that one over to you, Richard, and then I may have a point of view that I will add with Jacob as well.
Well, and I agree, Kevin. This is an important issue because I want to assure everyone listening in here that we aren't lowering standards to get people in the door. Yes, we have a strategic priority of expanding access to competent ethical financial planning by increasing both the number and diversity of CFP professionals. But the thing you have to understand is in order to achieve that, we've implemented several programs over the last number of years to help candidates get through the certification process. One of the messages we've heard loud and clear is that we really weren't providing a good structure for people to access the CFP board and the various parts of our organization, and we want candidates to have a good understanding of what's required of them and to approach the exam prepared for success. So in recent years, we've released resources like practice exams and an exam candidate handbook with suggestions on how to study and how to prepare. We also now have an active online candidate forum that allows candidates to connect and support each other as they proceed through the education, examination, and experience requirements. We believe that these are the reasons why the pass rate has inched up a little bit over the past number of years. It's simply because candidates are coming more prepared, not because we lowered the standards to get through the test.
Indeed. Kane asks, we'll shift gears a minute here, is robo-advising or passive investing going to be addressed specifically in the newly constructed standards? So Blaine, you've been so involved with the rollout of and development of the standards, so I'll let you have that one.
Sure, I'm happy to, and really I think there's multiple dimensions here that we've been involved with. One is certainly the work in proposing revisions to the standards, but also there's been a lot of work in the Digital Advice Working Group, which is a powerful initiative that takes a look at issues of technology that will impact the profession. So let's go specifically to Kane's question. The proposed revised standards reflect a balance between principles-based and rules-based standards, with principles and rules that apply across business models and practices. So when we talk about things like robo-advising or passive investing, those aspects are generally reflected in the state of the profession. And so we have principles associated with being current and capable of addressing situations like that. So you won't specifically see something like the term robo-advice referenced in the standards, at least not in the near term. But what you do see, and this is something that was in the proposed revised standards, is a specific obligation to understand the technology that you use. And so this gets to that point. And likewise, whenever we think about passive versus active investing, it really, as a professional, your responsibility is to understand the state of the art and science and apply it properly. So, I feel strongly that the commission and the task force and the board have done a very good job of striking the right balance between the principles-based approach and the rules-based approach, with a heavier emphasis on the principles, because we certainly want the standards to be evolutionary in the way that we put them together.
Thank you, Blaine. We're going to let Joseph have the last question. He asks, is there a pathway or template for an individual planner to start his or her own fee-for-service planning practice? Richard?
Well, Joseph, the thing I would say about that is what we see as CFP Board's role is to be the certifier, to set the standards, do the testing, and then maintain both the ethical and competency standards for CFP professionals going through the years. But it's not really our role to help somebody develop or build their practice model. This is where the membership associations come into play. I mean, both FPA and NAPFA. And I would encourage you to get in touch with the national organization of each one, but also with, if you have a local FPA chapter, and I know NAPFA has local study groups in various cities, that's your opportunity to connect with other professionals and figure out how are they doing business. Is there something that you can learn from them? And that membership can really play a vital role in accomplishing that.
Well, our time is running out here in this hour. We've covered a lot of territory this afternoon. Let's turn the program over to our two volunteer leaders here to wrap it up. So, Blaine, I'll let you go first.
Well, maybe the first comment I'd make is to echo what you said at the outset, that your favorite part is the Q&A period, and that's mine too. So I particularly enjoyed that. But I certainly want to say that I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us on this webinar today, and I really am thankful for the support CFP Board receives from the CFP professional community. It's been an honor to serve as CFP Board's chair this year and to participate in the important process of updating our standards of professional conduct. The profession's strong support of a fiduciary standard for financial advice really highlights, I think, the value our profession provides to Americans. I'm pleased that CFP Board and the profession have demonstrated leadership in advancing the fiduciary standard, and I really am optimistic about the future of CFP certification. CFP Board and the financial planning profession, given the strong alignment of priorities that we see throughout the profession. So advancing the profession is just so important to us all, and I am truly optimistic about where we're headed.
Thanks.
Well, I echo Blaine's appreciation for everyone listening in today, and I also, I share your optimism. Financial planning has come a long way toward becoming a profession. All of us at CFP Board appreciate all of you who are on the line here today for your contributions to getting us where we are today, and we look forward to working with you for years to come. I also encourage everyone to take a look at the Center for Financial Planning and consider how you can support this important initiative and its programs like I Am a CFP Pro campaign and the Academic Research Colloquium. We are seeking your financial support as well as your time and expertise to advance the work of the Center. Your donation to the Center for Financial Planning will support important research and initiatives that will advance the profession of financial planning.
So I really share Blaine and Richard's appreciation for the support of the CFP professional community. As the CEO of CFP Board, I have to tell you, it makes our job as staff easier when the board is willing to speak with great clarity about the expectations that it has, and we have clearly defined goals and strategic priorities. So, this has been a busy year at CFP Board with the review of the standards for the professional conduct. It's been a substantial amount of work, Blaine, for you individually, because you've been in each of those Commission on Standard meetings, but the entire board has gone above and beyond. It's been a busy year. We have, in fact, had an extra 2-day in-person meeting. For those of you out there, I just want to say, at CFP Board, we have about 70 staff members. If you need something, give us a call. We hope you'll contact us when you have questions or comments, or if you have new ideas that you believe can help advance the profession. This wraps up our webinar today. Again, we're in Denver, Colorado. Thank you for sharing this update with us. A recording of this presentation will be posted on the CFP Board website within the next week or so, and CFP Board will follow up with those who ask questions that we did not have time to get to. So with that, we stand adjourned, and have a nice weekend, everybody.